This is the professor that changed my life and many other people. It's just he's departed now, but he is nothing but great. And I'm going to put it, this is less than a minute or so, but he's talking about great leaps from 25 years ago.
Okay.
So here we go.
Great.
First time I saw Great Leaps in action, we walked in this room off the cafeteria, and they had a paraprofessional doing the teaching, and it was like a FBI interrogation room. It had a naked light bulb hanging down from the center, just hanging around. It had no windows in it. It was off the cafeteria, and this child was, and we brought in cameras and 2 or 3 adults, and the child had never seen us, and it didn't bother him. He stood up in front of the teacher, and he'd cross the table, and he's reading, and he had a great leap on his phrases. The teacher got so excited. She said, "You leaped," and she forgot to bring her rewards from the other room because we'd moved. And she said, "I'll do that later." She said, "You have a great weekend." This was a 6th grader, and he backed up. He wouldn't turn his back, and he's going out of the room, and he's looking at her, and he's looking at her. And I heard him say, "I didn't get to read." Because that lesson included 3 lessons. And the 3rd one was reading stories. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I'm seeing the 6th grader come back there and sit down to read his story. And I thought, this is good stuff.
That's Cecil Mercer. Let me unscrew. If I got this thing back again correct, I'm not Mr. Tech. I'm probably doing also. Am I showing you my? Well, I'm not. Am I on share screen right now?
Yes.
I'm trying to get off of share screen and back to the.
Okay.
And back to the show here. But, well, if I can, I can. I don't care. Oh, you'll do it. Hey, see that pictish animal there? Pause share. New share. See all this?
No.
This is why people like me have brains beside them. Oh, yay, much better.
Okay, thanks, Jessica.
If Henry, I hope Henry shows up, but if not, I really feel good about being able to show you Cecil. And one of the reasons Henry's going to come in, if he can come in, is he has the same background I have, except he got his doctorate, and I had something more important to do. I was a father, and I don't have time, and teaching full time, and life comes before titles in my world. And I took every single course they had at the University of Florida in special education, except stuff I wasn't interested in. So if I were to get a doctorate, I've got to do all this work in speech and hearing and what they called at the time retardation. And that's not who I am. I'm a teacher. I was in behavior disorders and learning disabilities and teaching kids to read. I'm not so much into figuring out tricks and passing these ridiculous tests and reading things that are not of interest to me, because things that are of interest to me are far more important. And at the time it was reading, and it was poor children. And that's not a good word, but it's the best word I got right now. Children whose families don't make enough money. Children from a school who the system could give half a flip about. They always sent anybody who's failing got sent miles away to teach at those schools, and those schools also had 1/3 of the people in those schools were absolute caring people, frontline fighters. But man, we had to put up with some people who just didn't care, and they got sent to us. So Cecil was my professor during all of this, and any of you who choose to go into higher learning and becoming professors, I'll give you one thing that made Cecil magic. He got out of his comfort zone to go visit schools that may have been an hour or 2 away. He could have stayed all the time into really cool middle-class schools and been a hero and all of this. Cecil traveled and got to know the teachers in a good 100 square mile area. So that's how he ran into Great Leaps. And I'll give you one more Cecil story while we're waiting on Henry, if he can make it. But here is what really put Great Leaps on the map. I wrote Great Leaps for North Marion Middle School. I designed it for 100 children there who could not read. That's it. I was well trained. I was very well trained by people like Cecil. And then in the behavior world, I was very well trained in behavior. Those two come together. Cecil puts a friendly face on working with children. Some of the world of behavior, they began treating us sort of like clock Nazis, we're more interested in data. We were very cold kind of people. And I learned from the Cecil world and then Tom Levitt at the University of Washington, that those of us in behavior can actually wear a very friendly smile. As you watch Great Leaps, if I've done anything in this whole world of teaching, it's that we can put a smile on the face of the science. It isn't just about teaching tools and marching through standards and checking things off of a list. It's really about interacting with a soul that in my religion is made in the very image of God. That important. And doing what we can to have that young soul meet their potential. I believe every one of us here not only has a potential, but a calling. So how do we as instructors get our children to be exactly who they were meant to be? That to me is the job, not only of teaching, but what I want Great Leaps to be. But it started for 100. And here comes the story. Southerners, we meander. We don't tell stories that go from A to B. We meander. So back to the story.
Do you know Henry is here?
No, I haven't seen it yet. Is he?
He is. Hi,
Okay.
Henry. Hank?
Hi.
Henry, I'm gonna put you on in just a minute. I'm telling a Cecil story. I showed a Cecil film, and then we'll have you introduce yourself and get off this happy hour. But with Cecil came to North Marion Middle School. Like I said, a professor that'll come to the middle of nowhere. He came, and Scott Hackmeyer, the principal who'd been brought in to change this from an F school to an A school, had an open door. In his open door, in come a very muscular 8th grader, looking like Mr. Clean. He's got a shiny, our kids from Reddick had froze. Our kids from Citra had shaved heads that shined. Strong, muscular boy. He comes in, like 8th graders are like only 6 foot tall from where I come and can shave. But Mr. Clean comes in, like I said, Scott had an open door policy. He comes in and says, you can't have the assembly today at 1:30. And Scott says, oh, why? And he goes, that's my reading time. Now Cecil now thinks it's snowing in hell. What's this kid wanting to miss an assembly because he's got to go to his reading time? And so then that's when Cecil said, take me to where this reading time is. So into that cafeteria, Cecil described so well, looking more like a prison cell with a hanging light. In Cecil goes, and he proceeds to see children marching in every 15, 20 minutes, knowing what page to get on and working. Here's the great news. Those 100 kids, we taught them all to read. All of them. Were some of them dyslexic? I'm sure. That's a label. We had 100 human souls who could not read. We, the community, that means I respect workers. I just do. That's the paras. It's the lunchroom ladies. It's the school bus drivers. The secretary asked for permission so she could teach a kid. We, the community, taught all 100 children to read. And it's that first Great Leaps article. It's got my name on it because I had all the data there in the box. But Cecil headed it up. We did the data for 3 or 4 years. And what we got with the learning disabled kids, we took all the kids. I don't care about labels. But a flood killed the rest of the data. But we had the data that 100 children who all were labeled learning disabled, all were reading below the below the second grade level, all of them, most around the first grade level, all of these children learned to read, and 0 reading specialists taught them. Back then we got 1.8 years per year. Now we're beyond the 2-year point. Okay, Henry, a good friend of mine, is here from Sarasota, Florida. He had the same background that I have, except probably more intense, and he can use bigger words than I can. Henry, he's a psychologist. You want to talk to us for a minute?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm a little late. Actually, I'm up here in Marianna, Florida, visiting the Florida Caverns and Falling Water State Park. It is just magnificent up here and doing that. So a little late getting online here. Of course, when you're retired, you think everybody's on your time. So I guess many of you are kind of interested in some of the background of the many people and ideas that came from them when Ken and I were students years ago, and who we met and the pioneers in the field. Of course, a lot of people would believe that Ken is a pioneer in the field, and he is definitely one of the early starters. But I want to start with the granddaddy of it all. And I know you all are probably thinking about Ogden Lindsley, really B.F. Skinner. It all goes back to the roots of B.F. Skinner, the modern time behaviorist. And I met Dr. Skinner. Ken, were you at Florida when Skinner came by to visit?
No, but I met his daughter.
You met Julie. Well, yeah, of course, she made a famous precision teaching.
But no, I didn't meet him then. I was probably too young, and I was in the world of creative writing.
He would have, obviously, Skinner loved writing, and he was a creative writer. He's written story, Walden too. Walden, yeah, you two would have gotten along just fine. But I met him and took a 2-day course with him, and it was spectacular. And then I got to see him in a debate against a psychometrician, a professor in psychometrics at the psychology department at the University of Florida, and they were debating about the merits of using single subject design versus research design, with multiple regression formulas, and it was just fantastic. And the bottom line was Skinner was saying, you guys are using numbers, I'm using real behaviors, and there was no comeback for that. It says you guys were using averages, which may or may not be real in the population. Yeah, you may move a couple of people in one direction. I want to move behaviors in a particular direction 100% of the time. Can your statistics do that? So, and that was quite telling, and that's what caught my eye. But another fellow that, influenced me and was one of B.F. Skinner's first students, besides Ogden Lindsley, was a guy by the name of Nate Asrin.
Henry, they won't know Ogden Lindsley.
Why not?
Who
doesn't know Ogden Lindsley? Do they all know Ogden? Do you all not know Ogden?
I don't think anyone here knows Ogden Lindsley.
Well, they know the name now. Well, I'll tell the story. They'll catch on. Well, Ogden, of course, was the father of precision teaching. He was B.F. Skinner's. He and Nate Asrin were B.F. Skinner's first students. Nate
Wow.
Azrin, you may have remembered him. He was the one with Azrin and Fox with toilet training, token economies. Do you remember those in the back of your mind in early psychology classes? If you had that, does that not strike a bell?
I had a token economy, but that's
All right. Well, Azrin and Lindsay worked together. And when Lindsay did the famous work with Azrin and schizophrenia, setting up token economies with schizophrenics. Oh, okay, that's some classic psychology. All that does go back to precision teaching because of objective behaviors. We're only working with behaviors you can see and change reliably. And of course, the goal is 100% of the time in explaining it. Well, anyway, I'd like to tell a quick story. When I first got started in my career, I went to a talk that Nate Azrin was giving. And as I said, Nate Azrin was B.F. Skinner's first student at Harvard University. And behaviorism was, applied behavior analysis was just getting started. Nobody really knew about it, cared about it. There was B.F. Skinner in the labs working with rats and pigeons. I'm sure everybody's heard of B.F. Skinner.
yeah.
Right? Okay. So Nate Azrin tells the story. He says, I'm Skinner's first student with Og. And he says, well, there I am in the basement with some professor that nobody knows about, nobody even cares about, working with rats and pigeons. How prophetic that was. So there was another famous psychologist by the name of Henry Murray. Henry Murray did a lot of work with psychoanalysis, thematic apperception tests. It's one of those things, you see a card, what do you see in the card? And you tell a story. So Henry Murray became very famous, and he was just starting to listen to get the research out of B.F. Skinner's lab because he was poo-pooing it. And as Dr. Nathan Azrin would say, Henry Murray started a keynote address at the American Psychological Association when he was poo-pooing Skinner's work by saying that from the minds of pigeons comes wisdom for society. How prophetic that was. Exactly right. And I always remember Azrin telling that story. So, and then Ogden, I don't know if you know Ogden's background. He was a naval officer, Ken?
I don't remember that early history, but
he was in the military. He was a prisoner of war, and really had a lot of animosity towards the Germans. And interesting enough, he tells another story that when he went to Harvard, you had to learn German. So here's this POW under the German POW system. And he had to learn, they were forcing him to learn German, and he absolutely refused. And then, so they, as you know, Ogden, he worked it out his way, where, believe it or not, back then, he was able to get by learning computer language. That's what got him started in computers and precision teaching. Fascinating history.
You mentioned one thing that brings up Ogden to me. Everybody's got stories that sometimes need to be at real happy hours, so nobody can record you. And so I've got one of those Ogden stories, but the one that impacts me the most is when I get a piece of data that shouldn't be. A good example was, well, Jess, I can use one right here. Jess has a student that she's taught to read. And at the same time, I was working with some same students from the same neighborhood. And we were kind of in a race to see, okay, who's going to hit that fourth grade independent level first? Who's going to get a cold read of 100 words a minute first? Jessica beat me on all accounts. I wrote the program. Come on, man. stomped me. But some people would have been feeling weird about that. I felt exceptionally proud about that because I didn't write Great Leaps to have any damn thing to do with me, but to have everything to do with bringing it to the people. But Ogden said, and here's the one that still gets me. Why, if we have 4 different teachers with a kid, why do they get the same data that one teacher working with that child gets? Because I thought, okay, relationships, all of this stuff is going to increase the data. It must. It doesn't. It's just bizarre. And this goes all the way back to the early days of Cecil Mercer working with college students. He put 4 college students on one kid, one Monday, one Tuesday, to get as many college students working as he could. And their data was just like my data. And that's where Ogden's sentence flashes into my head. We make a lot of presumptions. We use a lot of common sense to say this is how it should be. And when it isn't, he says, that's why we need a rat. Talking about the mazes and all of this. Don't presume anything, kind of. Test it. Check her out. That's why we got a rat. You don't know everything. Does that sound like Ogden to you, Henry?
In fact, one of the talks I listened to him, he started it out with a famous Will Rogers quote. You'll probably recognize it in a minute. He said, "It's not what we don't know that gets us into trouble. It's what we know that ain't so that gets us into trouble."
What a title for somebody's book. What we know that ain't so.
Right.
That is one heck of a book. I know
Yes.
a whole stuff that ain't so.
So yeah, that's how he would start it off.
I was able to hear Ogden Lindsley speak probably 4 times. I was able to drink with him only twice.
I've been to his farm.
He's a character.
He was. I was at his house in Lawrence, Kansas. And just as you would think a professor's house would look like, it. I mean, things all over the place. The whole house looked like a lab, with charts all over in the kitchen, and his poor wife has got. It was remarkable.
Guess how I got Ogden Lindsley and Tom Lovett and Owen White and the major leaders of founders of precision teaching into my hotel room in Orlando. Want to take a guess how I got them there? All of them. And we spent 5 hours. They were from the West Coast on a different time zone. Orlando at the time would close down the bars between 10 and 12. Genius here bought a bottle of scotch, a bottle of rum, a bottle of vodka, a bottle of whiskey, and the mixers and appetizers. So for, at the time, $100 of hard-earned teacher money, I got the leaders of the field into my hotel room for 4 hours of some of the best discussions I've ever had. Those were the fun days of precision teaching.
What precious days. Those are so precious. Did you record any of that?
Of course not. I was an idiot.
Weren't we all? Did you have, what about Hank Pennypacker? Was he involved?
Let's define him for a minute. He is like by far the most prestigious University of Florida professor in psychology probably we've ever had. Would you agree, Henry?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes. Powerful. And I used to skip classes. I loved hippie days because, man, you didn't have to go to class if you didn't want to. So I could go to all the classes I wanted to of other people, and you don't even have to take their tests or anything. So I could sign up for easy classes and go listen to the hard guys. And so I listened to Hank Pennypacker many a time. And then the Association of Precision Teachers real early had Ogden, had Hank, had a lot of us. And I was a young guy. So myself and Donna McCarthy Jensen, who got me into education and precision teaching, we could go there and hear these geniuses talking and planning the future of precision teaching. And they listen to us, that as young teachers in our 20s, and I hope I model this, they listened to what we had to say from the front lines. They really did. And as much as they knew, they didn't act like some of what I call the know-it-alls of today. They were really in the forefront of a different way of teaching, and being in that forefront of making data-based decisions from individual performance was radical. Sadly, it's still radical. So Hank Pennypacker, another influence, but since I wasn't in the field of psychology, my area wasn't even a field. Creative writing isn't exactly that kind of, but I was in education because they would let me take all the, I could go to the college education. They'd let me take all the writing courses I wanted. And then I could double major in history and English and just go around taking everything I wanted. So that's how I got into education. How I got into precision teaching. I first met the standard behavior chart, 1972. How old is that, Henry?
72.
72.
Well, I was barely born then.
Yeah, right.
72. That's
It's a start, isn't
impressive.
it?
Yeah,
It
I
was-
didn't even get my bachelor's until 76. So
It
that
was, we were going to working with junkies. That's where they got me. I was a street person with a corner drugstore, taking young runaways and all as they freaked out on LSD. Our job was to unfreak them out so we didn't have to take them to jail. But I was hired in the drug project, and we were measuring cigarette smoking behavior with the heroin taking behavior. And we were trying to design an intervention based, since the addiction to cigarettes looks remarkably like the addiction to heroin. We were playing with this idea of when they smoked and not smoked, what led them back to breaking 4 and 5 months of not smoking? What behaviors went on in smoking cigarettes so we could apply much easier interventions? And by watching the cigarette smoking, we thought we could know when to intervene when the recidivism back to heroin would happen. That was my introduction to the standard behavior chart. Isn't that cool?
Yes, in fact, we did I guess an offshoot of that is that we went to measuring urges and decreasing urges.
That was on there. We measured urges.
Yes, that was pretty cool. Yeah, we liked it. But we weren't very successful in eliminating cigarette smoking back then. It was too easy to get.
We weren't successful in eliminating. We weren't.
Because I smoked myself back then, so it wasn't good.
So did I. But the doctor in charge of that program basically overdosed on drugs. So welcome to the late 60s and early 70s. They were wild and real times.
Yes.
But that's Pennypacker. Now we can go into, I'll give one Cecil story. Cecil has so much to do with this program. And Lavinia, you're now the president. You're the president of the organization. It was then the International Dyslexia Association New York branch. Cecil kind of feared going. He's a good Southern boy, like you heard. He kind of feared going to New York. He really did. And it took a lot from Eileen Marzola and myself to get Cecil to come, to go to New York City. And I'll be damned if we're getting ready to fly to New York, me and Cecil and Ann, his wife, and the Iraq war breaks out. Does that hit the little psyche of New York City? Just a tad. A lot of fear and trepidation. And here is a man who speaks gently, friendly, just laid back, as Southern and nice as you could imagine. And now he's got to talk. He was afraid. He was afraid of New York City. Cecil has to talk when you could even hear noise on the streets about this war that just happened. And Cecil, at the ground floor of the Marriott Marquis on a Saturday morning, spoke. The audience was entranced. That's the first time they had heard Cecil Mercer. I've got a few things to play of his we'll do over times, but what a remarkable man. But Cecil, that was his last speech. That was his last speech. He had just moved to a new place that had just been built, and in cleaning up the land and all, probably was bitten by a tick. He got Lyme's disease, but there was no Lyme's disease in Florida. So it went undiagnosed and become neurologic. And we lost him. It was a nightmare to lose, oh man, started as my professor, then my mentor, and then my friend. To lose him and all he could stand for so early hurt. Here's the story for New York City. At his funeral, 3, not me, 3 people spoke about the legacy of Cecil Mercer and what was important to him. All 3 mentioned that talk in New York City. Isn't that? And it was just, if anybody, Lavinia, perhaps there's a recording of that through the files of New York International Dyslexia Association. There's probably not. We can't find, he did the same talk, because I heard it 6, 7 times. It was a masterpiece. Nowhere is it recorded. And
is there any text? You know, we have cleaned out our office so many times, and anything that took place before 7 years is gone. We're very careful about purging because, you know, we don't have a lot of space.
But the hunt is on. If anybody anywhere has that good 1-hour talk of Cecil Mercer, it's inspiring to young teachers and old alike because of his heart. If I even put a little piece of that heart into my career and into my work, I've done something very, very good. You know, that's who we are. I see a hand from Kathy.
Hi, so I'm a parent of a child who has dyslexia and dysgraphia. And we've been doing Great Leaps since about August. I started homeschooling him in November, took him out of the public school system. And where I'm at in Great Leaps is he likes the program and we are making progress, but he is still very slow. And I did talk to Lisa one day, a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying he's a very careful reader, like he's very slow to make sure that he catches the words with low errors. That's important to him. And I just didn't know if you had any advice or any, anything I can do to help him.
First, Kathy, I want you to know that as you get into our world of Great Leaps and all, you can call us up. You can call me up. And all of this brainstorm, because your child's as important as all the children of the world. So the first thing I hear, and I could be wrong because I never met him, and that's what I said, that's why we need a rat when we're doing research. But my first thing is he's probably been involved with people whose prime desire is accuracy.
Yes.
And to please them, he had to be accurate. I would almost bet that this may not be on purpose, but we do it, that mistakes are punished. So in avoidance,
perfectionism issues.
So but the punishment piece of not being perfect brings a fear to explore, a fear to take chances. Exploring and taking chances are what reading is all about. So what we've got to do, and it's okay to fail. That's the first thing you've got to teach every teacher. Let's try something. If it doesn't work, let's think like Thomas Edison and the light bulb. Okay, scratch that one off, 1 down, let's go. What else are we going to try? So I like that idea of second tries. Okay, after we got the cold data, after we got that day's data marked, and say, okay, let's try this sucker again. You know, I'm trying to now hear my voice and all. I'm trying to eliminate all the punishers. Let's try that sucker again. And I want you to fly like Batman coming to the rescue. I don't care about mistakes. I don't care about them at all.
Okay.
And here I'm flying. Follow along as I fly. Now let's fly together. Now you give it a go. You may have to start with one sentence.
Okay.
And move it to 2. If it doesn't work, you'll know. And then I call it, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board. And between like the people you see here and many who aren't here, we have a lot of experience working with kids. But the first thing I hope you heard is my complete removal of anything punishing.
Mm-hmm.
The whole attitude of let's fly like Batman,
Mm-hmm.
or let's fly like whatever he's into. If he's into baseball, the fastest baseball runner. If he's into cars, let's fly like a GTO. But remove, and then when it's done, I don't care how you show the pleasure. You show the pleasure. You don't necessarily say the pleasure because words are cheap. You show the pleasure. You indeed let him know that, oh, is that cool? See if that moves it, because again, I can be wrong, but many of our dyslexic kids, and you'll keep hearing me say this over and over again, children that we've labeled dyslexic, because I don't like labels. He's his own general soul and he's his own set of behaviors. So we got to figure out, okay, what's slowing this boy down when we know he can go faster? And let's not let people get under the assumption that Great Leaps is all about speed. You know, Great Leaps is all about the speed being fast enough so we can understand it and process it. So we're approaching the speed of language. But so the speed does matter, but we're not speed demons. We have to slow some kids down. But it sounds like your son needs speeding up. And I think the tactics to try to get him to speed up are simple. It's sort of like just what I said. We've got to, first, I'm trying to diagnose, and I shouldn't do that so quickly, but it sounds very, very much like he's been in a world where 100% matters, accuracy matters, and accuracy no matter what. Well, that's the world of regular education. And again, I've just got to guess that in what causes perfectionism, boy, we you know, I'll throw that to Henry, but we could talk forever about that, because some people are just born that way. You know, they can walk into my office and drop their jaw because it is not organized. But yes, it is organized. It's just not organized for you.
Yeah, I don't think he feels smart when he has an error, and so it really bothers him. That makes him angry or frustrated. So he does try to read it correctly. Lisa did have me do some like drills with him where I would do kind of like what you're saying and say, like, I'm going to read it fast and you're going to read it behind me fast. Yeah. And he was like, oh, like that totally got him out of his comfort zone. And so I'm trying different things right now because I want to see, he is progressing very well, but I want to see him be more confident, you know, with what he's reading.
It'd be neat to see what his charts are saying. Because
yeah, I just started that, and that upset him.
One of the things we chart for is I sometimes didn't get the growth I wanted, and I didn't because I'm in this day to day. So if I have a kid, man, he's only at 110, you know, I want him, we got to get, but if I went back and looked 4 months, we were at 65. Because I'm in it day to day, I wasn't appreciating the significant growth I was getting. We were winning because I'm so deep, because I care with that child. I wasn't seeing that we were growing 5 times faster than he's ever grown before in his life. So sometimes that's where the chart is going to help us, especially we're winning. I didn't know we were winning. We're winning. Sometimes setting rewards and goals matter, but you got to be very careful because they can turn into bribes. And bribes, what bribes tend to do is increase the behavior that you were trying to get rid of.
Right.
You know, like sit still. If you sit still for 1 minute, I'm giving you $1.
Yeah.
So the only way you're going to get $1 is by not sitting still at another time. Maybe I can up it to 5. But that's my first shots. And if anyone in the group, you know, has anything else here, you know, then we can do it, but always know I'm on the phone. I love to brainstorm, just like we're showing here, just like it appears Lisa did with you also. We love to brainstorm, and then the data talks. And it's okay to fail. That's a tough thing to get across to people. It's even tougher when it's your own kid. It's okay for a strategy to fail. What we have to do is keep our creativity open so we can keep trying. And it appears if in 6 months you've gotten a 25% increase in the cold read speed, you're winning.
Okay.
Henry, do you or anyone else have any comments on this? This is happy hour at its best.
I know in my experience working with a lot of high achieving kids, gifted kids, kids who come from families of high achievers, a lot of times I find them that they do have difficulty with not being perfect. And sometimes I take a look at, well, what's the criteria that the child is being exposed to? And is there a message that whatever a kid's going to do is not good enough? So, I mean, it's a hard call, but sometimes I found that to be true. And the way around it is sometimes I've asked the kid to set his own goal. And if the kid makes it, great. If the kid doesn't make it and worked on earnestly, you're still the same kid and still loved it. And just learn to lower the anxiety level that if you don't make your goal, you're still going to be fed, you're still going to eat, you're still going to live, and you're still going to get another chance to do some more tomorrow and stuff. So that's a slow process to overcome. But sometimes you have to take a look at that sometimes the feedback that the kid's getting inadvertently is not good enough. So I know that this Miss Kathy here talked about that he's doing well, relatively well, which I don't know what that means compared to other children. Is he above those other children? So, and if he is, right now that might be okay, good enough to get him to learn the next skill and not expect something that is maybe a little bit beyond that's really necessary for him to achieve that. So again, I'm not saying I even have any clue as to what's going on in your life with that kid, but I just know that sometimes they have this concept that whatever they do and is not going to be good enough. And that's what you got to try to get over with.
Lisa,
Kathy, what story is he on?
He just started 34 today.
Okay, so he's at the point now where there's not a whole lot of demands of rate for him. Roughly how long has it taken him to hit goals?
I think usually it's like once a week. He gets through in 5 days, he'll move to the next level, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. That is absolutely on par.
Okay.
And so the program will make more demands on him for rate as he moves through, and he's going to hit points where until he smooths out, he's not going to be able to make goals, because there are stories that as they get further on, there are stories that make it so that they have to read smoother. They won't be able to, so they're going to plateau. He's going to keep hitting that wall. And that's when you can come in and model that story for him after his reading. Practice it first so you can get it nice and relaxed and casual, so he can hear that he may have to slow down to speed up, because it's not about rushing. It's just about smoothing out.
About smooth,
in the meantime, if you keep modeling with him, just reading at a regular brisk pace, he's headed in the right direction. At story 34, if he's hitting a goal every week, you're in the right direction.
And notice you've said he's labeled dyslexic. By definition, dyslexic kids really don't respond to regular interventions. He's responding to a regular intervention by getting one goal a week. if he can continue at such a rate, he is going to be having to read at 130, 140, 150 words a minute, which will make his world. And once you begin reading faster, the world begins reinforcing you too. You know?
And that's where I'm at, is I know he's progressing. I can see it. I can see it when he reads it. I can, every day when we do the 3 things, I mean, Hank, he does set his own goals. He'll say, oh, I'm going to get to this word today. And I'm like, I think you can get further, but go ahead, let's try. But I think you can get further. And he does, he goes further than he thinks he can. So he is very good about meeting his goals and being happy with what he's achieved. But I am still seeing the rate is, and I know Lisa and I discussed, he is still very, very slow about the reading. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to give him that confidence to just go for it and read, again, without that concern of, getting it wrong. So
one thing you may hear in your world, and so I'm trying to help you answer them later. If they say he's merely memorizing this to get those speeds, we hear that from people sometimes. Well, good, because his eyes are now being trained. Many other things are going on. If he's tracking, good. So I don't know what our exact problem is. We know there's a problem. We don't know what it is. It could be the perfectionist in him.
Yeah, and he's halfway through his phonics, his remediation for phonics. So there are many digraphs and phonemes he doesn't know yet that I'm having to redo everything. So I'm hoping by end of summer, he'll feel a lot more confident just with that, like the AUGH, he doesn't know. But he got gargantuan on the last story.
Oh, I love that word.
On the first try?
First try, and gigantic. It was like, where's that from? Like, I don't know, So we have wins. It's just, I know his pace is very, very labored. So
What does he do when he wins?
I'm sorry?
What does he do when he wins?
Like on this, I mean, I'm the one that's like, yes, we did it. And we get a high five after it's done. And, good job. Look at how far you've come. We just generally talk about it. And then go ahead.
Does he believe he did a good job? Does he give you those signs of I won?
He does not hugely, not like when he's playing Minecraft and gets to build a mansion.
Yeah.
But he's not that excited.
It'd be really fun to see if we could transfer that excitement. And sometimes we do that again. Watch out for bribes. We do that with goals. And let's say when you move 5 stories, you may want to say, how about you and I? We're going to do something cool. COVID, boy, is it getting away rewards, because I say, oh, we can go to a movie. How about I pick the movie and you pick the restaurant? All right, let's flip a coin to see who picks the movie, who gets the restaurant. What I'd really like, if you set up such an economy, you want both of you to win, not just him, so that you move more away from being just a mother and a tutor into being his teammate and coach. So when he wins, you win.
That's sort of what we did with Adwin. When she hit her goal of 100, we sent her those books that I had picked out.
Another idea that might be fun is you can, as a mom, you have an advantage. You could really play this. I let my students, after they get a leap, they get to ask me the hardest question they could think of related to the story. And I don't make it look like it's a cool thing. I'm like, all right, you got the, oh no. Are you kidding me? It's Friday and I have to answer your questions. Come on, man. So playing that puts him as a chance of saying, yeah, I'm building that mansion. I'm going to make my mom answer a miserably hard question. By the way, we're also getting his gears firing cognitively as he's coming up with a question to ask you from it instead of you always asking him. That's all kinds of cool.
Well, we took the happy hour in a new direction today.
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
No, don't be sorry. I was kind of cool. Happy hours go that way. Do you know this is being recorded? That's important. You're okay with that?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
my son always announces that all the time, and I'm not good at that kind of stuff. But it is being recorded, so other people can watch these, and you're welcome to come anytime. This is just as informal as you can get.
Yeah.
We have different people come on to speak a little while, and then they're available, and everybody's available to answer professional questions, to enjoy themselves, tell jokes. It's a happy hour, and it's a Great Leaps team, but we don't even have to talk about Great Leaps if we don't want to. The idea is professionals and people in this world of reading from all over the country to be able to have a little relaxing forum to professionally be who we are and to share our needs and to do things like that. I hope you think it's a good idea, and I hope we help some. I see, Henry, you're the guest speaker. You shouldn't have to ask to speak.
Just to go back to, it just dawned on me about that speech.
Henry, you froze. Tech. Maybe he'll come back. Henry, you frozen. Or I'm frozen.
No, he
Somebody
is.
move. Okay, not frozen. Waiting on Henry. Anybody can comment in whatever as we wait. We're the topic of children wanting to be too perfect just really gets my head rolling, because I've had so many children, especially those with the highest IQs, that
Yep.
I've got to get that performance out of them. And the system has made them overly careful. A good idea of what the system has done is, if you go into a Montessori classroom or a classroom of 4-year-olds, give them a piece of paper and a pencil and say, hey, in the next 5 minutes, I want everybody to fill up that paper. They all do. Now go into a gifted class of 8th graders. Give them a blank piece of paper, a pencil, give them the same rules. You will spend the entire period answering questions about what you want. The entire period. I don't want anything. I want you to fill up the paper. They are so afraid. They are so encaged by the system that they're afraid to perform. And in my knowledge of behavior, it says that punishment leads to escape from the task. So fear of the task, that's why I almost immediately go, and it doesn't mean, I don't mean punishment by somebody running around with a bullwhip. Punishers in the early world of performance in schools can even be subtle, but nonetheless, I don't need to see the rock to see when it's hit the pond. I don't see the rock, but I see the waves. And that's what puts me onto the idea, and it's not you, Kathy, it's our entire world. And especially bright kids who are socially have that acumen on what's this world looking at? And if you had any kind of little problem, you become afraid to perform, or you carefully perform. But reading is not a thing of careful performance. Real reading is a thing of that book talking to you. And I think many of us in the professions have lost that by our focus on accuracy, percentages, and tools, not the real reading. The idea of every day is also working in your favor, because once you become used to being tested every single day, performance anxiety, at least in Great Leaps, in this exercise, performance anxiety should be reduced to 0. And in fact, the opposite begins happening. You get them wanting to perform. And that's the goal. But the extrovert in me has always been said, okay, leave a few seconds for people to talk, or you talk forever, Ken.
Yeah, we've experienced with the Great Leaps, we've experienced that he really enjoys the program. He really enjoys the stories. Like today was a new story, and that was the first, he opened it and was like, oh, it's so big. And then he took a minute to take it in, and I was like, yeah, so it doesn't matter. Just do the best you can. Let's just see how it goes, and then we'll talk about it after. And he loves that. And then once he's on the story, then it's like, okay, I got to make it to the next paragraph. I got to make it to the next whatever. And he challenges himself. So we have truly enjoyed the program. He's really loving it, and it is a very low hanging fruit when it comes to collaboration, and very easy to do with him, and very easy to get results. Where some of our other reading programs are, a little more bribing. Or
you bring up a question. Here's a great dispute amongst Great Leaps people, and Cecil and I even disagreed on this, because Cecil says all teaching is good teaching. I want that cold read at the very, very start. I don't want to give any clues. I want to see where you're at, how it held. But Cecil saying all teaching is good teaching. I've got a lot of people who want the student, they mark the score at the end of the minute so we know how to chart it, but they let the student go ahead and finish the page. Okay, I've not done that. My whole world is our children have failed so often. I want them to absolutely see themselves getting faster. See, so yesterday you got to hear, today you get to see. So children who don't believe in themselves, I don't have to tell them, great job, you're getting faster. I don't have to tell them that. It's there right in front of them. So that's one of the Great Leaps arguments going on. Do you go the whole minute to use every piece? Or do you stop it at the 1 minute and then move from there? So
for us, we do stop, but he will sometimes keep reading, and I'll just say, remember, we're going to get to that tomorrow, and I stop it. But sometimes I will review, like if we go back to do the mirroring and he's in the middle of a sentence, I'll mirror to the end of the sentence just so he understands what he was reading. And then
back in the paper days, I don't know if we can do this with the digital or not. Back in the paper days, they'd want to keep reading it. And I'd just tell him, oh, come on, that's not fair. You're just trying to get goals out of me. And so they do homework. They study it, even though please, I'm not made out of prizes. I'm not made out of, it's not cheating, but come on, man. Here we go again. Come on. That's not fair to me. So I got more reading out of them that way. So it doesn't hurt anything. If they choose to go on, have at it. To me, but I'm all right, especially with the children who don't think they're winning. This shows them without a doubt they're winning. You're getting faster. You're competing against yourself. And the worst you're going to get when you compete against yourself is a tie.
Yeah, make it again.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds like Kathy, it sounds like you're winning. That's the coolest thing.
I think we are. Yep. We just don't know when he's going to go back to school. That's the big thing in our house right now. So.
Well, it's 5 o'clock. I can let everybody go. I always stay on for a few extra minutes to go over anything we need to. Thank you, Hank. Notice I called you Hank, even though really you're Henry. You got to be a redneck to be a Hank in my world. I even call Henry Aaron. I don't even call him Hank. And he's a hero.
Well, my mom used to call me Hank. She was from Romania. What are you going to make of that?
I don't know anything about Romania. Was Zsa Zsa Gabor from Romania?
Was she from Romania? I think she was from Hungary.
Same difference.
Yeah, close, well, not between Romania and, they're different, even different languages, you know.
Yeah, well, that's like Georgia and South Carolina. You know, we all think they're all about the same. They don't. Have fun. I hope we see you in 2 weeks. And we're all here just for a happy hour discussion, questions.
Thank you all for your input. It's very helpful.
Hey, Ms. Kat, thank you. Yeah.
This is who we are.
Yeah, no, this is great. I really appreciate it. And I hope I'm sharing it with other families. I hope that, you know, other families will start to pick it up and use it. I think it's a really valuable tool for a very low cost that any family can really do and takes very little time. I think that, you know, a lot of parents need that. They need something quick and short and easily done without all of this. You need training, you need this, you know, you don't need anything. Just plug it in and go. And that's been super helpful in this community, you know, for parents like myself.
The kids need that. 15 minutes is their attention span.
Yeah.
And let them go play tennis. You know, I can't imagine being a parent and making Tim Tebow, Tim, you can't go play football right now. You've got to do your reading or your piano practice. Well, that's Tim Tebow you're talking to. You know, he's changing millions of lives because of his football. So our children need time to be who they are and who they're supposed to be also. And we're not all meant to go to college and be professors. You know, some of us, well, that's probably meant for something else.
Maybe so.
But
Well,
I found out.
This was really helpful.
Thank you. And I'm glad you were here, and come back in 2 weeks.
I will.
And call anytime. You know, Lisa has been there for you. Well, we will too.
I appreciate that. You and I had talked on a forum one day, and you had suggested I call, which is how I got a hold of Lisa. So I really do appreciate it. That makes a world of difference. Yeah.
Real matters.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go. Bye now.
Enjoy the weekend. Stay warm.
Thank you. Bye-bye.